Hey, welcome back. Sometimes the most terrifying monsters aren't the ones that lurk in the shadows, but the ones we invite into our own homes, into our very bedrooms. I was thinking about this the other night, reading an old book by lamplight. Yes, I'm that kind of romantic. And it struck me how a 15th century warlord from a rugged corner of Eastern Europe somehow ended up as the ultimate English gentleman villain, sipping tea and plotting corruption in a London suburb. How does that happen? I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is The Great Conversation. In today's episode, we're untangling one of history's most fascinating cultural transformations. 12. Dracula's bloodline, from Wallachian warlord to Victorian vampire. So let's start with the man himself, Vlad III. Born in 1431 in the fortress of Sighișoara, in what is now Romania. His father was Vlad II, a knight of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order dedicated to fighting the Ottoman Empire. That's where the name comes from. Dracul means dragon. Vlad III became Drăculea, son of the dragon, or, as his enemies would later twist it, son of the devil. He was a prince of Wallachia, a buffer state caught in the crushing vice between the Kingdom of Hungary and the expanding Ottoman Empire. His entire life was a masterclass in brutal realpolitik. He was held hostage by the Ottomans as a boy for political leverage. He seized his throne and lost it multiple times, and he ruled with a ferocity designed to cement his power in a lawless land. His method? Impalement. A horrific, public, and slow form of execution that served as both punishment and psychological warfare. To his supporters, he was a just, if severe, ruler who brought order. To his enemies and to the Saxon merchants whose trade he disrupted, he was a monster. They printed pamphlets, the 15th century version of viral media, detailing his atrocities. And that's where the legend of Vlad the Impaler was born. But here's the first twist in our story. For about 400 years, Vlad Drăculea and the folkloric vampire are completely separate threads. The vampire of Eastern European folklore is a far cry from the aristocratic count we know. It's a bloated, peasant revenant, a reanimated corpse that preys on its family and livestock, spreading disease and death. It's a local terror, not a global seducer. So how do these two threads, the historical impaler and the folkloric undead, finally knot together? We have to leap forward to 1897, to the frantic, brilliant mind of Bram Stoker, an Irish theater manager buried in research at the British Museum. He wasn't looking for Vlad initially. He was crafting a gothic horror novel, and his villain's name was originally Count Womper. But in his research, he stumbled upon accounts of this Wallachian voivode, Vlad the Impaler. He was captivated. Here was a historical figure with a name that meant devil's son, a reputation for unimaginable cruelty, and a homeland shrouded in the mist of the Carpathian Mountains. It was perfect raw material. Stoker took the name, the geography, and a hint of the noble bearing. But critically, he transplanted him. He yanked this figure out of his medieval context and dropped him into the heart of the modern world, Victorian England. And this is where the real alchemy happens. Stoker's Dracula isn't terrifying because he's a warlord from a distant land. He's terrifying because he's an invader. He represents the fear of reverse colonization, of the ancient and primitive East infiltrating and corrupting the modern, enlightened West. Look at how he's described. He has the manners of an aristocrat, but he's physically strong, hairy, with peculiarly sharp teeth and bad breath. He's a perversion of the English gentleman. He buys London property. He learns the language and the customs, not to assimilate, but to conquer. He is the ultimate immigrant anxiety made flesh, or rather, made undead. Stoker also brilliantly weaponizes Victorian anxieties about gender and sexuality. Dracula doesn't just kill, he seduces and inverts. He turns the idealized, pure Victorian women, Lucy Westenra and Mina Murray, into sexually aggressive, predatory creatures. He corrupts the lifeblood of the nation, literally and symbolically. The men in the novel must band together in a quasi-medieval brotherhood, using science, technology, and old folklore to defeat this ancient evil. It's a battle for the soul of modernity itself. Which brings me to a personal reflection. As someone who moved from Bangladesh to New York, I've always been struck by this aspect of the story. Dracula is the monster who migrates. He's the foreign element that the host society must identify and expel to restore purity. Stoker's genius was to cloak a very modern, very British set of fears in the trappings of a medieval history and folklore that felt authentically, exotically terrifying. He created a villain who was a mirror, reflecting back everything Victorian England was afraid of: the erosion of its empire, the shifting roles of women, the fear that their advanced civilization was fragile, and that something older and darker could simply buy a house next door. So what's our takeaway from this centuries-long evolution? It's that our monsters are never just monsters. They are containers for our deepest cultural anxieties. Vlad the Impaler was a real man, a product of a brutal, fractured political landscape. The folk vampire was a supernatural explanation for disease and death. But Bram Stoker's Dracula? He is a modern creation, a composite phantom assembled from historical scraps and contemporary fears. He is proof that a story can be more powerful and more enduring than history itself. We stopped fearing the historical Vlad, but we never stopped fearing what Dracula came to represent: the charming outsider who wants not just your life, but your very identity, your society, your future. He is, in a sense, the perfect monster for the modern age. And that is why he is immortal. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Great Conversation. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the bloodline of a legend, please do share the show with a friend who loves history, literature, and the strange places where they meet. For more from me, Ibnul J. Farabi, and the entire team, visit our home at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. Until next time, keep listening, keep questioning.